flowers growing sympathy. They ask, will Jim jump again? He's curled like a tail. We bring him toys that bump and laugh. Doctors say, talk like he's in the sandbox, but I talk about the world. God gave me Jim. I see an ocean in his eye. I call the surf. Come on to bananas and swinging. I'll pull him back to his room wallpaper, to small elephants, palm trees, back to the monkey. He wakes hanging from vines, jumping on snakes. He burns in the jungle as he remembers men using fire, their language. Yeah. And this final one, maybe somewhat inspired by childhood piano lessons. It's called Her Invention. Her room has throw rugs like old cats. Black notes combine on the wallpaper. A bronze G clef stands on a low table next to his smile. Caught behind glass, a rest. He is G. George, her student who played to the state finals. Had the piano dancing like a girl. He got right inside the hammers and hit the thread sharply as Bach. Oh, George was smart as music. Oh, George could make a measure. He placed his wrists by the piano's lips and dove right in and swam. He kissed the notes, he kicked and breathed them, flat and sharp. She wiped her lip, put away the metronome, and said, G. George is an invention like the sun. Thank you.
Past Jackson asked me to introduce the readers. Something I used to do a lot in the old days. Please welcome Cardi Flux up.
This one's Cardi.
That's Cardi, that's Bledsoe.
Deborah Friedman. We're going to sing a song I wrote quite a while ago that always needed harmony. Okay, well, it's a love song, and I realize there's really no excuse for love songs, but I always have.
What is it? I'm hoping I'll find
Please come back next week. I'm doing a feature. Come back to it. Sorry, and Glenn Pettit. Where did he go? Feature, Glenn Pettit, and
All right. Yeah.
don't miss it.
Next reader is Nancy Mindick.
Boy, that was really good. Well, this poem that I'm going to read, actually, I feel slightly bad about reading this because that was so wonderful and happy, and yet this is sort of unhappy. Sorry. But actually, I once had a rather scary experience in my life, which what happened was that somebody sort of tried to kill me but didn't succeed. I'm happy to report. Thank you. This is not a thank you note, however. What happened is, as a result of that experience, I'm absolutely terrified of the dark, of being alone in the dark. Last week, I was teaching, on Tuesday night, I teach English as a second language, and I was teaching at a church, and by the end of the night, I realized that all the students had gone home, and I was standing there alone, and I was just utterly petrified. So I got the hell out of there as soon as I could, went to a Chinese restaurant, and began writing this poem. This is about being in the dark. In the man dark, in the dark panic, in the don't stop, don't dark, the blinking, dying, slippery hands dark, in the black hole darkness, neck grab, no noise, heart cry, quiet, quiet dark, in the live dark, in the live dark, in the live dark.
Next reader is Tom Butler.
I have three short love poems, I guess. First one's called Holding Hands. When we hold hands, what leaps to and fro between us? That's the first one. Cambridge haiku, walking. When we walk, something, a sweet grace, finds us delicately. A comfort, the pace, is always just right. Have you noticed? It feels good. Third one's called Herbal Tea. And I have to say a little bit about the poem. I gave a young woman a ride home in a storm one night, and my car stopped dead outside her house. So she had to invite me in so I could call AAA. And while I was inside, she made some herbal tea. Then she began to blow bubbles. Just to remind me of the difference in our ages, I thought. In any event, I was amused by that. I rushed home when the AAA came. I didn't have any time to finish the tea because they came just when she was through. And I wrote a little poem. It's called Herbal Tea. To state that glass of herbal tea, there's much left in it of sleepy time, remorse-free colloquy, of easy, unjiggy tomfoolery, sober love and friendship. You blow bubbles and tell stories. Putnam Avenue's Scheherazade, amused at how far a little soft soap and water can go. While I sit enthralled at your tale of Dubonnet, my slow gin, Otto von Stronheim's professor, to your blue angel, Marlene. All this time, you perch high, elevated as in a dream. Thank you.
Tom Butler. Next up is Nick Torney.
Thanks very much. That first name is Mick, by the way. That's an Irish name. The first poem is for a friend called Costadimos, who is the poetry editor of a magazine brought out last year in Boston called Zone A. I thought it was some very good poetry in it, and poetry editors are generally the most vilified people in the area of writing. Nobody ever thanks them. So I thought he did a good job, and this is for him. He didn't publish any of my poetry, by the way. For Costadimos, cheering every Icarus. Long before the poet has finished, you are urgently clapping or waiting to. Long afterwards, I am still in the grip of listening, my eyes clenched. The poet thinks I'm asleep. You go over and begin relentlessly to prepare another for the flight whose fall you will not learn from. A burnt child still reaching into the fire, the hope of flight in your eyes, its scars in your face. I remain seated. I nurse my bruises and plot a route by land. Cheering every Icarus, grimly innocent, you remember what to forget and what to remember. I shake my head involuntarily as though doubts were mosquitoes, until later when you turn towards me and come ambling over with a bucket of glue and a bag of feathers in your arms, sidestepping the waitress with drinks, ridiculous, and knowing it, for this was sought, the knowing fool who brings together the lovers, those ignorant fools. And in your eyes, that without which no wings fly. I rise to meet you. This poem is called To My Firstborn. My wee rosy prune, resembling a distant planet and speaking all unknown tongues, I bed you under the fragrant sheet like a bulb, your face nosing up, and you sleep like one not yet born. You are barely in time. You have not yet remembered anything. How quickly your needs heal, your wet eyes shine, and how I thrill with dread to imagine you suddenly fresh from dreams, eager and thirsting for this old morning. Now, wakeful, I watch you sleep moment by moment, and am heavy with all I have not forgotten. From your cradle, you sing to me of my final quenching. It would be complete without a love poem, so here it is. It's called Love Song. All I wanted was to sit and relax in the warm breath of the evening. But a neighbour's radio melts a love song into the air that flickers round me, coaxing my tired attention with hints of sweetness. I find myself waiting for the catch, that little lift to ease the expectation, the hope the song has revived in me. Suddenly I start, seeing your hands pressed to the carriage window and your wet eyes laughing as I juggle imaginary eggs and drop them all over the platform. How, after 2 long snows, does this not fade, pulsing through the summer evening like this music, swimming through the dark to me. This last poem is called Michelangelo Being Searched in Belfast. None of it is mine. All of it is taken verbatim with no editing from an interview in the Boston Globe with Joe Doherty, who has the distinction of having served 7 years in prison in America, although he was never charged with any crime. This is called Michelangelo Being Searched in Belfast. All I ever wanted to be was a plumber. The first time I put a sink in a wall, I thought I was Michelangelo. I'd go out to work early to catch the bus, and I'd be stopped and searched by British soldiers. I'd just get through with one, and the next one, 20 yards away, would stop me for a search too. Just for fun, they'd sometimes kick a screwdriver or some other tool down the sewer. Thank you very much.
That was Mick. Next up, Henry Hughes.
This is my first time in Cambridge, and certainly my first time reading at Charlie's, so I'm grateful to people like Jack Powers for providing this great forum. Most recently from Indiana, but I grew up on Long Island. And,
Right.
And it was a common when you were fishing as a kid along the sound, catch sand sharks. Small sharks, very harmless, but you're always fishing for fluke or something and catch sand sharks. This poem comes from that experience. At home, I spilled the fish out on the lawn, 2 flounders, a porgy, and a shark, leaping alive from the mucus, a rough, muscled sleeve twisting in the grass, its yellow eyes narrowing in the yard light. I caught it off the stone dock, walked it home in a white pail, shifting foamy red against my knee for a mile. Now the living shape gave me the reason. I wanted to watch it swim. With garden gloves, I carried the shark through the house to the upstairs bathroom where my mother wouldn't see, and filled the tub with water, letting the fish go. Every shark line clear. The gray dorsal, the nose, the long poured body against the porcelain. The shark's motion kept me staring at a dark pulse, head and tail continuous. Then I remembered the chlorine, the eyes and gills losing salt. I went wild for this shark's life and begged my mother to stop cutting coupons and drive me down to the harbor. It was very late. There were 2 Italian men fishing the stone dock in the dark. They whooped at my mother and lifted their wine necks high in the air. But she stood there, and together we let the shark dive through the blue light. For years, I dreamt those drunken men caught my shark and kept it in a bucket and waited for my mother. I saw them licking the shark's tail and laughing until gulls circled white. And now it worries me when I hear my mother in the bathroom. I remember that mindless shark, the fish we saved, the fish that swims beneath us. One short poem that takes place one of those road trips through Pennsylvania. Everyone has a road trip to Pennsylvania. It's got to be the longest day. I don't know if it's the longest day. This is called We Counted What We Found. One dim road full of retreads, 2 Amish buggies rattling our nerves back to 1960 when your mother sat on the stoop stroking the dog. Sick, she said, sick from eating toads. What happened to that dog? The dog we counted on for so much, barking possums off the coop, chewing David's yellow flute. At Oakley's, we spoke the things we ate. Here, try a turnip, bland. Fried mushrooms, onions, rice. Try the perch, mild, good. The waitress said there were 7 ponds from there to Centerville, and you wanted to fish. In the car, I told you Woody caught a pike with a swallow in its stomach, and my sister wouldn't cook it. The bird, you asked? Oil chuckled in the droning Ford. I smoked 2 cigarettes and felt sick, crawled in the back. 2 more exits, you told me. 1 more. I watched the truck's pale foreheads pass. 2, 3, 5. Fell back and counted for the last light. Tried to guess our turn. Felt the dog under the wheel. Thank you.
Sometime I'll read you my trip through Montana point. It's Henry Hughes. A.J. DeFrancisco.
Hello. For some reason I've been thinking about God again for the last couple of days. I don't usually think about God in the summertime for some reason. Mostly, in the winter and in the spring, but I read a Dylan Thomas poem last week that really struck me. And I think, he was trying to come to terms with, forces, mysterious forces. So I quickly picked up on God, which has always been a mystery to me. But I'd like to read it anyway, for starters. I could do his poem and then a poem of my own. The poem's called "The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives the Flower." The force that through the green fuse drives the flower drives my green age, that blasts the roots of trees as my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks drives my red blood, that dries the mouthing streams turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth unto my veins how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind hauls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man how of my clay is made the hangman's line. The lips of time leach to the fountainhead. Love drips and gathers, but the fallen blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell a weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm. This next poem is mine, and it's not nearly as subtle. I wrote this on Easter, and I consider myself a very spiritual person, and I think sometimes some of the poetry I read about about God and the church would make people think otherwise. But this is a time when we question our values, and I guess I question certain values. And I was brought up, a Catholic, and this is a poem I wrote on Easter. Heaven is a skull club, and words, or so John says, mere figureheads on wooden posts parading, arms unseen through biblical passages adorned in cliché, reflected through pinholes in leaves for the masses, from a timepiece bound to the wrist with lashes. While the priest raises rubied goblets to the rafters, cloaked in gilded barricade of painted sky, my wine is not wine, but the blood of maggots squashed from Coney Island of the mind. My meat, I will not poke fingers in the farm-slaughtered meat, for the meat may be flesh of Christ unconsecrated, and I am not given to cannibalism. Heathens do not share the everlasting kingdom, for the headless Messiah would never have risen. Thank you.
A.J. DeFrancisco. Next up is Phil Sen.
just like to briefly bring you a commercial message. As Greg said earlier, there's an obscure little reading series going on, an unusual little art gallery in Beverly, and it'll be one next Wednesday, so if you happen to find yourself some strange reason on the northbound train, stop in. This is something I've written recently in the sort of discovery sort of theme. This one's called Excavating Moments. Tiny fingers filled with 7 years of curiosity twist the bejeweled key, and as ancient hinges release a chorus of creaks into squeaky clean ears, a sliver of light slices into the depths of the darkened cellar. He descended the narrow wooden stairs, feeling the silky tickling of lacy cobwebs, and allowing the rush of musty air to invade his nostrils, which flared with restless anticipation. Oh, youthful archaeologist, what rusty relics and moldy memories will your curious fingers fondle? How many faded photographs of forgotten lives will you leaf through, for it can make little sense to your little puzzle without the missing piece. An object reflecting the weak light of the bare overhead bulb breaks the magical trance that a broken fountain pen had held upon the boy who descends crow-like upon the glinty distractor. No one really knows why things are left around for us to find. Small, circular, time-traveler dime whose liberty head may have once endured the anxious pocket of another wide-eyed youth of an era 7 decades gone. The scars of a simpler time had now worn Miss Liberty's face to a silver silhouette in the dumbfounded hands of one who has just uncovered the unsettling mystery of the ceaseless sweep of the second hand. Thank you.
Who was that?
Phil Salmon. Phil Salmon.
That was Phil Salmon. I'm next up.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. My name's Wally Butts. A couple of older poems. It's called The Lesson. Father, I have learned sadness in the eyes of children is prophecy. They watch the dim spark at the center of each star and know, even in that stillness, to say we are dying is not enough. Tonight, nearly 15 years since the horrible ceremony of your passing, I come to offer this final sacrament of ancient bone evolving in skin. I don't know, once in a while, you come across, I think we all, if we write, come across these poems that they're certainly not the greatest thing we ever wrote, but there's something in them that is very much us and something that we're very drawn to. Or, I mean, this is not an intense, but it's a later point. But anyway, the name of the poem is Washington Jefferson Hotel, and the setting is New York City on 53rd near 9th, where I lived for about a year. And across the street was this mission, this red and blue neon cross that said, "Sin will find you out." And after a couple of months of living there, I mean, that took on a whole special meaning for me.
Was it spelled S-Y-N?
S-I-N.
S-I-N.
Yeah, it was the real deal. Original sin. All right, here we go. A cat leaps through my open 3rd-story window, and a group gathers on the street below and into the still, warm air of this crazed October night sings a cappella. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I hear the voices of women. Imagine their sleek dance. Begin to look out the window, but no, I'll remember them just this way. sultry, dark-eyed, soft, flowered dresses. My great pleasure to introduce our final reader, Billy Barnum. Please welcome.
I'd like to read a couple of... This first poem is a poem about a dream. Well, I dreamed this dream, and I dreamed it exactly like this. It's about a dog. Frail dog with pleading eyes, you have lost your paw, and bring it to me a live thing, a lost hand, which assumes its own volition, a single step of the eternal, a footprint to oblivion. This part of you has made a mark for time and place, put down a record for infinity, forever lost from your control to take a place in history belonging to the world. Each being makes an irretraceable move, and we, the mourners, put your paw to bed for the unending sleepless immortality. You run to fetch the lighted faggots and place around the bier a flaming dais to float rudderless and wide on the river Styx. Our anguish being life unfinished, our statement being made, worn and tattered, we go limping down the night together. This one I wrote on a bed. I was in a coffee house in New York, and I was hanging around. It was about 3 or 4 in the morning. Somebody said, if you want to be a writer, you can't hang around places like this 3 or 4 in the morning. You gotta go to bed early, get up early, sit down at a desk and write solid for a couple of hours. And I says, I think that's nonsense. Give me a piece of paper and pencil. I'll write you a poem right now. And I lucked out. I mean, I got one off. And this is what I wrote. Farewell, all lost bird-wing songs from summer's rain-green trees, dreaming in the sun-veined clouds' departing light. Oh, sunset hours will find a hand untouched if fingers will not close on air to find their place in palms. Eyes swallow air through mouths that drink the grass. Taste not the bud that's closed before it sees its mirrored face in clear reflection. Death's only other sister sits upon a stump, gloating with her cat-green eyes. If children will not throw away the clock and play.
Billy Barnum. Let's have a hand for Billy Barnum. In legend, as it says, in its own time, Billy Barnum. Thank you. My son, John Nicholas, was born on Billy Barnum Day in Boston, 22882. And indeed, the city of Boston honored Billy with a special proclamation to his services for not only as a poet, a mime, a dancer, but his entire artistic celebration of Boston. So let's have a hand for Billy for that. I want to thank poet friend Wally Butts for handling the second set for us. And we will be back next week. Our features next week will be musical. There'll be Carly Bledsoe and Glenn Pettit. And you heard Cardi tonight, and Glenn didn't perform. And I want to thank our features for being with us as they were. Rick McIntyre. And Patricia Hawkins, who had to leave. And I want to thank Patricia, who wasn't feeling well, and she did a remarkable reading. I want to thank everyone here tonight, especially, let's have a hand for Julie Stone's birthday. Oh, we have a hand for birthday, that was God's will. So thank you for all the support system she has and the photography she's done in poetry here. Let's thank the folks that host us all the time, the Clippers downstairs, Diane upstairs, and let's hope that we're all here again. If the good Lord is willing and the creeks don't rise, let's get together next week. Bye-bye.
Before I change into poetry, man.
You guys are
You're back from a multitude of reasons.
No, I don't want to tuned in. I get over these sites sometimes.
Good job.
I take every stone silver. Great, listening to everything. I don't sometimes get
hold on a second, hold on, I do it with the map.
We're doing that.
I have to do it. Well, you're right.
We're doing napkin math.
You're right.
2 times 4
For me, listening to the second
25, you're right.
E.
E minor.
Yeah, it's opposite. Okay.
It's a Sony D6. I took it to the Who, so they wouldn't let me. I kept trying to get in, but there was only one game that they let you in to get recognized the second time. Like 20 minutes. I wanted to search my jacket, and the thing was in there. I probably admitted I had it, they said don't take it. I can't believe that. They're making a digital recording of everything. How can they give a crap if someone has a one?
Get some of your stuff.
Yeah, but $2 grand now, you can get a digital like this.
We all do. You know, on any given night, half the audience have a great
towards the morning.
Let's face it, how many times I turn on radio, it's funny,
What I'm most serious about is studying myself, studying the future of our poetry, through my own mythic, so space mythical